Amadou Onana.
Amadou Onana gets his and Villa's season off and running. He's lining it up, gets power on it. Oh, that time! There's no debating that. That's going to count.
Jhon Durán.
And again, he's lining it up. He's having a go.
Here's Jhon Durán. Takes the shot. Durán! Oh, brilliant!
Morgan Rogers.
Watkins this time. Morgan Rogers again shoots. It's the equaliser.
Aston Villa have been one of the most dominant teams in Europe.
This team can beat anybody on their day now. There's no holes, there's no gaps. It is just organised, and it's just a little machine that just walks away.
Competing under the bright lights of the Champions League, the Claret and Blue have shown that not only are they here to compete with Europe's biggest teams, but that they belong.
This is exciting for everyone involved with Aston Villa, back with the elite.
With new players combined with Villa's established stars like Ollie Watkins, Emiliano Martinez, and John McGinn.
The way that he's sort of built this squad, part of it is from the old guard and before, and some of it is the new.
How has Unai Emery been able to transform Aston Villa into one of the scariest sides in Europe?
We want to build a new history.
If you told Aston Villa fans just a few years ago that a former MLS player would score a Champions League winner for them against Bayern Munich, they would have admitted you to a mental asylum.
Okay. Oh, you crazy.
When Gerrard had taken charge of the team, they were in 15th place, and he helped them finish 14th by the season's end. Hardly the progress the owners wanted to see. The 2023 season saw further troubles, even as Gerrard got the players he wanted. The team underperformed, struggling with both wins and goals. After an embarrassing 3-0 loss and finding themselves in 16th place, Gerrard was sacked.
Aston Villa have sacked Steven Gerrard.
Unai Emery replaced the Englishman, and it has been a meteoric rise since then. Despite Gerrard's horrific start, Emery helped Aston Villa finish 7th in the league that season. Then the next season they did even better, finishing 4th and clinching a Champions League spot. As a result, Villa have been very active in the transfer market to make sure they have more depth to be able to compete on all fronts. Emery has combined the existing top players with these new signings to create a dominant Aston Villa side.
We are starting to create here.
Durán has transformed into one of the best number 9s in the world. Not only can this guy not stop scoring, but every goal seems to be a banger. He scored the winning goal in a 2-1 win against West Ham, the team that he was reportedly supposed to join in the summer of 2024. But his celebration showed that he is committed to Villa. Then he scored consecutive winning goals against Leicester and Everton, the goal against Everton being an absolute screamer. As if that wasn't good enough, he scored the only goal in a 1-0 win against Bayern Munich in the Champions League. First Champions League home game in ages for Villa, and this guy decides to casually score on arguably the greatest goalie of all time.
The last time you played Bayern Munich, you beat them 1-0 to win European Cup. You play them again, and you go and beat them 1-0.
Keep in mind too, Durán has scored all of these goals while coming off the bench.
The fact he doesn't start and he is the club's top scorer shows just how impactful he's been.
It will show you here, showing his efficiency. This really highlights just how efficient he is.
An absolute monster of a striker. A guy who literally just a few seasons ago was getting single-digit goals in the MLS. Now he is scoring in the biggest club competition in the world against a club that are 6-time champions. That is the Unai Emery effect. Morgan Rogers has been an absolute tank for the Claret and Blue. If you look at just stats, you won't see the impact he has had. But ask any Villa fan and they will tell you he has been one of the best players. Playing next to Watkins in a second striker / center attacking mid hybrid role, he's been terrific. He is fast, he is strong, good on the ball, and has great chemistry with Ollie Watkins. The game against Arsenal really showed all of his qualities as he looked head and shoulders better than everyone else on the pitch. 22 years old, he should only get better, and what a better manager to develop under than Unai Emery. Onana has bolstered the midfield. He is a tall, fast, strong midfielder that specializes at disrupting the play and winning the ball back. He covers ground quick and is very good in the air, as seen by his performances both for Everton and for Belgium in the Euros. He was also needed greatly, as Aston Villa sold Douglas Luiz for around 42 million euros to comply with the profitability and sustainability rule. It's obviously a big miss. Last season, Douglas Luiz was one of the best central midfielders in the Premier League, but Onana has perfectly replaced the Brazilian, dominating the midfield both with and without the ball. On the ball, he's actually very good. Fantastic technical ability, especially when you consider how tall he is. Not only has he been an absolute unit in the middle of the park, but he has also picked up key goals for the club. He scored on his debut in a 2-1 win over West Ham. Just a few weeks later, he scored the opening goal in the win against Leicester City. Then he continued his form into the Champions League, where he scored Aston Villa's third goal in their 3-0 win over Young Boys. Scoring both in his Premier League and Champions League debut, it's clear the money was well spent. Everton let go of a top midfielder and Aston Villa took full advantage. Him next to Tielemans has been a very wonderful partnership. The two balance each other well, with both of them being able to do a little bit of everything in the center of the park. Tielemans is a better deep line playmaker, but Onana is a better athlete, able to really punish teams in transition and in the air. To help with the chance creation, especially now that Douglas Luiz is gone, Aston Villa have also picked up Ross Barkley. Ross Barkley once upon a time was a highly sought after English talent, especially during his Everton days. It's why Chelsea wanted him in 2018. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for him at London. In fact, he actually spent a season on loan at Aston Villa while being a Chelsea player in the 2020-2021 season. He got 3 goals and 1 assist in 24 appearances before returning to Chelsea, then later being sold to Nice. But this time around, Barkley is being signed after a very good season. He got 5 goals and 6 assists in all competitions for Luton Town. He played the majority of his games either as an 8 or a 6, so I think he can slot directly into Emery's system. Considering how well he played for Luton of all teams, I think he can be even better for Aston Villa, surrounded by more talented players, playing under Unai Emery, who will have a specific role for him in a specific area of the system. Emery's a very smart coach, so he'll know how to limit Barkley's weaknesses and take the most use of his strengths. I actually think the combo of him and Onana is a perfect replacement for Douglas Luiz, because with Onana you get that physical presence, that long legs, good in transition, good in the air, and then with Ross Barkley you get someone who's very good on the ball, can give you those statistical outputs, the goals, the assists, the long shots. Together, I think they would complement each other really well. Another exciting signing is Jadon Philogene. The 22-year-old rejoins Aston Villa on a 5-year contract. The fee ended up close to £13 million due to a 30% sell-on clause that was in the original transfer agreement with Hull City. The Englishman picked up 12 goals and 6 assists for Hull City last season. He is a quick, super skillful winger that can play on either the left or the right flank. This goal alone probably justifies his fee, even if you have never watched him play. Lots of flair, great at running at defenders, excellent in 1v1 situations. He is pretty much the perfect replacement now that Diaby has gone to Al Ittihad. Needed to replace Diaby's creativity and speed with someone, and who better than Jadon? He can come off the bench to give the team a spark, but I honestly think he's good enough to start already. There's no reason why you couldn't play him on one wing and then play Bailey on the other. He's basically the perfect winger for Emery's system, because against the bigger clubs when Unai wants to play a counter-attacking style, well, Jadon has the speed to get him behind and he's good on the ball to take on players in those counterattacks. If you're playing against a team that wants to play a mid to low block against Aston Villa, well, he's good enough in tight spaces to break down their defense. Aston Villa have also signed Ian Maatsen. The Dutch fullback wasn't getting many opportunities at Chelsea, just being constantly loaned around from club to club. During his time at Burnley, he helped the team clinch promotion back to the Premier League and was included in the Championship team of the season as the best left back. He is a very good, traditional modern-day fullback and showed just how good he truly can be in his brief loan at Borussia Dortmund. He scored his first Champions League goal in a 4-2 win against Atletico Madrid in the quarterfinal second leg, helping his team progress to the semi-finals. He started in the final and was even named in the team of the season for the Champions League. He's a modern-day fullback, so he's not the best defensively, but he's great going forward, and I feel like he doesn't have to be that good of a defender, because with Konsa at right back, he has the freedom to go forward and to give another outlet on that left-hand side. With Digne and Moreno in the last 24 months of their contract, Maatsen could be the club's main left back for years to come. On top of the new players, the majority of Emery's favorite players are still at the club. Ollie Watkins was the league's most informed striker. With 19 goals and 12 assists in the Premier League, there was a genuine case for the Englishman to be the English Premier League Player of the Year. We all saw that winning goal against the Netherlands in the Euros. That was a world-class finish. Now with Barkley, Bailey, Philogene around him, there's no reason that Watkins can't replicate the same form again. Super John McGinn is still at the heart of the midfield. The captain is renowned not only for having the Premier League's best celebration, but for also possessing one of the sharpest left foot in the game. He combines excellent technical ability with an unlimited work engine, making him a super valuable midfielder. Emiliano Martinez showed again in the Copa America that he's one of the best goalkeepers in the world. We already know that he's broken the record for number of clean sheets for an Aston Villa goalkeeper in his first 100 Premier League games for the club. He's also, of course, a World Cup champion and made the greatest save of all time. His incredible mentality helped Argentina win another penalty shootout as they beat Ecuador. Imagine being so good that even though Messi missed the first penalty, everybody had full faith that Argentina would still win because Emiliano Martinez is that good at penalty shootouts. He's essentially a cheat code. Having a keeper that is so cool and confident is huge, especially if Aston Villa go far in knockout competitions. We already saw a glimpse of it in the Conference League last year when Villa beat Lille. Diego Carlos, Konsa, and Pau Torres have been rock solid at the back. Now you have Maatsen too, who can push forward while these guys cover for him. Now, spending big doesn't always translate to wins. Aston Villa fans of all teams would know that. Initially, when the team was promoted to the Premier League, there was hope. Under Nassef Sawiris and Wes Edens, there was an expectation that big money was going to be spent in order for the team to now compete in the top divisions of English football. In the 2020 season, Aston Villa made 15 signings, which included Tyrone Mings, El Ghazi, Trezeguet, Matt Targett, and Douglas Luiz. With so much money spent, it was expected that the club would easily be able to at least stay up in England's top flight. But they couldn't have been more wrong. Villa started the season in 17th place and ended in the same spot. They won just 9 games and were only 1 point away from relegation on the last match day with a 1-1 draw against West Ham. They also lost the EFL Cup final 2-1 to Manchester City. But Emery has done enough to justify backing him in the transfer market. Under the Spaniard, Aston Villa spent big on Pau Torres and Moussa Diaby, both great players who helped the team greatly. The Spaniard has a plan and the owners have full faith in him. With the right recruiting, there's no reason why Aston Villa can't continue improving. It's also nice to see Aston Villa spending money because traditionally in the past, they were known as a club that would sell their best players as soon as they had a good run of form. Under Martin O'Neill, they got 3 consecutive 6th place finishes, but then sold Gareth Barry, James Milner, and Ashley Young. This completely stopped the team from improving. Then in the 2021-2022 season, they sold Jack Grealish. Even going into this season, they technically sold 2 of their best players with Douglas Luiz and Diaby leaving. But while they did sell players, at the same time, they invested into the squad. Now, it isn't all sunshine and rainbows. There have been concerns from people that a lot of the players that have been signed are young and inexperienced. Players like Samuel Illan Jr., who was part of the Juventus deal, or Lewis Dobbin. But I think a lot of these players are fine as rotational pieces. The main core of the team is still there, the guys that were pivotal to them clinching Champions League football. They just needed more depth in case they go through another injury situation like last year where 3 different players tore their ACL. Now when they want to compete in the FA Cup, the Leagues Cup, the Champions League, there is a lot of different players that Emery can test and play around with. Plus, if there's any coach that can develop these youngsters and transition them slowly, it would be Unai Emery. How the Spaniard has transformed the club has been terrific. In fact, the fall and rise of Aston Villa, it's a story on its own. That's why I've made a separate video. You have to check it out right here.